what I want to talk about first of all is the legal side of what we can and can't say. So before we actually leave, before Brexit is finally enacted and we finally leave Europe, and it's going to be different for those of you in other countries. And I know that we've got people joining us from America. I know, and from the Americas, I should say. I know we've also got you extra late birds. So the people joining us from the Americas, it's still morning for you guys, so good morning. And the people joining us from Southeast Asia and Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, and so on, of course, it's actually evening for you. And also our friends who are joining us from Russia and other parts of Europe that are further east. So a very, very good evening to you as well. So obviously in all of your different countries, the laws are going to be slightly different. So what we're actually talking about today is a little bit about the legal side of things, but also take this also as best practice, because, you know, I'm going to be giving you information about what we can and can't say, but I'm also going to be showing you ways that we can actually elegantly navigate around all of these things such that you don't end up getting into hot water, either legally or just sort of from transgressing advertising laws in your country and so on. So first of all, the legal side of things is that, particularly under European law, for example, is that you're not allowed to name any named conditions that are medical conditions. So you're not allowed to use words like, obviously cancer, because that contravenes the Cancer Act in the UK. There will be similar acts in the USA, Australia, and all other countries across the world. But you also can't say things like eczema. You can't say things like migraine. You can't say words like osteoarthritis, because these are actual named conditions. Now, there is an organization called the Advertising Standards Authority, also known as the ASA, here in the UK. And these are simply, they're not an official body at all. They're simply a company that was set up actually by the advertising industry in order to act as a watchdog, if you like, so that the government would never feel they had to step in, because there was this watchdog that was essentially looking after and overseeing the advertising industry. Now, the history to all of this, as far as it affects complementary medicine, is that a few years ago, what happened was that an organization called the Nightingale Collaboration, which was set up by a chap called Dr. Simon Singh, who wrote a book called Trick or Treatment with none other than ex-Professor Edzard Ernst. Many of you will have heard of him. He's now retired, and he's still active in trying to take complementary medicine down, which is ironic, as he was a professor of complementary medicine. But that's a story for another day, and there is some really interesting background there, which I will tell you about, but not today, because I want to keep on topic. But anyway, Simon Singh and Edzard Ernst hate complementary medicine with a passion. So Simon Singh set up the Nightingale Collaboration and got a friend of his to set up a web crawler called Fishbarrel. And this particular piece of internet kit had the ability to look at all complementary medical practitioners' websites and trawl through it with what's called a spider and find any named conditions that may be on complementary medical practitioners' websites. So let's say if you were the kind of person who was specializing in let's say osteoarthritis, or you were specializing in I don't know, premenstrual syndrome, or you were specializing in fertility issues. All of those are named conditions. So this web crawler not only had the ability to find these claims or mentions of named conditions, which are deemed by the Advertising Standards Authority to be claims, it also had the ability to auto-complete the Advertising Standard Authority's actual forms, online forms, so that this thing just in an automated fashion was able to essentially lob in all complementary medical practitioners. Could you please mute yourselves, everybody? We're getting some interference there. So yeah, thanks ever so much. That's great. As I say, if your phone rings or you start chatting and things, it sort of then interferes with the feed. So that's what actually happened. And so lots of practitioners were contacting the Complementary Medical Association because they've received letters from the Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA. And these letters were so threatening, they even had a portcullis logo at the top, which looked as though it was coming from the government. And we had these distraught practitioners contacting us saying, have I got to take my website down? Have I got to stop practicing? I mean, honestly, it was just horrendous. These letters were so threatening and so frightening that, quite honestly, people were just absolutely, they were just distraught and terrified. So what we did as the Complementary Medical Association, we got back to all of our members and put something out to the profession in general saying, have you had a letter from the ASA? If so, how did it make you feel? And what did you believe you had to do as a result of this letter? Now, if you bear with me 1 second, Roberta, I don't know if you can sort this out, but we're getting a ping every time we've got somebody entering the room. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Are you actually hearing a ping? Can you nod? Are you hearing a ping every time somebody's coming into the room? Yeah. Roberta, I don't know if you're able to look around and see whether there's anything that we can do about that, because that's going to get really old really quickly. Okay.
I will have a look at the settings.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very, very much. Yes, I'll carry on, but Roberta, yes, thank you so much. So Rihanna said, what year did this happen, the ASA letters? I would say it probably happened at around about 20, if memory serves, I think it was probably about 2014, something like that, thereabouts. So it was some time ago. So what I did was I set up a meeting with the ASA, and I got this letter out from the Complementary Medical Association to all practitioners across the UK, and said, as far as we could reach, as far as our database was able to take us, and we asked people to say, we asked people, pass this on if you possibly can, because we wanted to, put together a dossier. Nothing better than a dossier when you're doing something official. So within 24 hours, I had this dossier of 84 emails that had come back to us, showing that practitioners felt frightened, they felt bullied, they felt that the essence of the letter was saying that they had to stop practicing, that they had to take their websites down, and that they felt threatened. So we went along to the ASA. I took my ex-partner with me, who happened to be on the CAP, he happened to be the chair of the CAP committee a couple of years earlier. This is a chap who was the planning director of the world's largest ad agency, Ogilvy and Mather. So he was one of the people who was actually instrumental in setting up the ASA, which was a bit of a surprise for the ASA when we went down with him. We also took Rob Verkerk and Mel from the ANH with us, the Alliance of Natural Health. Rob Verkerk has a PhD from, I believe, Imperial. He's a great scientist and really understands complementary medicine. The point that the ASA were making was that there's no research in complementary medicine at all. So therefore, you people, you practitioners, are not allowed to make any claims because there's no research supporting what you're talking about. Obviously, I also took my great big fat encyclopedia, which is what I call it, which is the book that I was commissioned to do by Collins, which is called Complementary and Alternative Medicine, the Scientific Verdict on What Really Works. This is a book that contains 10,000 random controlled trials in the field of complementary medicine that my job was to anglicize those trials, turn them into English so that they would be understandable by the lay audience and also by doctors who don't actually necessarily understand how to read trials. And that's not me saying that, that's actually the Lancet saying that most doctors don't understand how to read trials, because very often they'll read the intro, skip to the conclusion, and actually not read the data and how the methodology was and research was conducted. So that's not me taking doctors' names in vain, by the way. So what actually happened was that we went along with this dossier, and the ASA were saying, well, you know, these questions were very leading questions. I said, well, no, they weren't. These were very, very open-ended questions. We weren't leading people in a particular direction. What we were doing was that we just wanted to find out what their experience was of receiving these letters from you. And I read a few of the letters and showed that they felt threatened and so on. So I said, essentially, what you're doing is you are sending threatening material through the Royal Mail, which is a major offence. To threaten anybody through the mail is completely illegal. So that was thing one. So they were on the back foot at that point. Thing two was we got, you know, Big Dave out, big guns, saying, well, you know, this isn't why I set up the ASA, so why I didn't set up, this is not why I set up the CAP committee, the Code of Advertising Practice. And they're saying, oh yes, but under the terms of the Code of Advertising Practice, this is what it says about complementary medicine. And we were able to turn that around as well. And then finally, what happened was that Rob Vickirk very kindly said, well, look, you know, you don't have any scientists on your board of people who make these decisions about what is or isn't evidence. So we will act as your scientific body, and we will therefore actually be able to tell you whether a discipline does have a research base or whether a discipline doesn't have a research base. We'll make life easy for you, and we will do this for you free of charge. Now, you don't get a better offer than that, do you? So anyway, they were very sheepish. They were very embarrassed, actually, because what had happened is they'd been played by Simon Singh and all of his cronies, essentially. That's what had happened. They realized that was the case after we went down there suited and booted and explained to them what was going on and said essentially cease and desist, or we will take high court, and we will take this to the highest courts in the land, and you will be prosecuted for sending threatening material through the mail. They then stopped their campaign of terror against complementary medical practitioners, and they then started on a different industry. They then moved away from us, and we haven't actually to this date heard a peep out of them since. So we did have a major victory there. It was a very, very interesting victory because a lot of other organizations that represented particular disciplines basically told their members just to roll over and take it, and just turn your website into something so anodyne that nobody will ever have the faintest idea of what it is that you do, which we thought was actually quite shameful and actually quite pitiful, which is why we needed to take action, and we did. So that's not to pat ourselves on the back, it's just to say that we believe so strongly in the power of complementary medicine to make major, major changes to the health and well-being of this nation. And so we need to have you out there, and we need you to be able to say what it is you do. So how does this all kind of add up to make things actually useful for you so that you can take information away from this session? So what I want to do first of all is, okay, so I hope you've taken on board that you can't make any medical claims. So you're probably sitting there right now thinking, so how the heck do I tell anybody about what I actually do? And the answer is that you actually use what we term in hypnosis something called artful vagueness. So you don't actually have to name conditions, but what I want you to do is to start thinking about things in more oblique ways, more descriptive, more imaginative ways. So one of the key elements on your website and in your brochures, if you have them, or if you want to put information on your Facebook business page, that sort of thing, you've got to think in terms of, ultimately, first of all, who is the person I want to target with this messaging? That is thing one. So if you want to make notes on that, please do go ahead, because if you can start thinking and being really clear in your own mind about exactly who it is you want to serve, or perhaps the conditions that you want to serve. So do you want to specialize in subfertility? Do you want to specialize in sports injuries? Do you want to specialize in skin conditions, the psoriasis, eczemas, and so on? What is it that you particularly want to specialize in, and who do you want to serve? Now, I appreciate many of you may actually want to work with a particular group of people and then another particularly different group of people and another particularly different group of people. If that's the case, go back to all of the recordings I've already made for you on your niche and your avatar, okay, because those are really, really useful exercises for you. So all the way, as you know, all the way through lockdown, we've been making these videos for you so that you can not stay static during lockdown. Right the way from the beginning of lockdown, we've put out so much incredibly valuable, helpful information for you. If you're still stuck on those points and you're not sure how to really craft your messaging, go back to those because they are unbelievably useful. When you know exactly who it is you want to serve, so you've done all of that avatar work and you've identified your ideal perfect client, the person who makes your soul sing because you know you can help them, then think about how you're going to craft your messages. So let's say, for sake of argument, that you want to work with people who have, let's say, eczema. Okay, it's an interesting one because that is a named condition. How do you craft a message out there on your website that says, I treat eczema, without saying I treat eczema, because you're not allowed to use the word treat and you're not allowed to use the word eczema. So the first thing is that you've got to think in very creative terms, as I just said. So the best way actually of doing this is not making claims yourself at all. The best way is by using testimonials. Now, as you know, everything we bring you is completely evidence-based. And what we know from the market research evidence and the studies in marketing that have been done on this topic is that the use of testimonials is the second most effective way of advertising. The first most effective, as I'm sure you totally get and totally understand and have probably guessed already, is word of mouth. We all know that's the best way. But failing that, the best thing to do on your website is to use testimonials. Now, again, in testimonials, because the Advertising Standards Authority and EU law and soon British law, once we come out of Brexit, will say that testimonials are advertising and you're making claims. So in a testimonial, you can't have a client say, I came to Mary Smith and Mary Smith treated my eczema and it got better, because that's a medical claim. But what you can say, and I'm going to tell you how to get testimonials in just a moment, but what you can say are things like itchy skin. I couldn't sleep at night because I was up all night scratching because my skin was so sore and itchy. I was literally scratching until I bled. Anybody who is your core audience, if you're targeting people with eczema, let's say, hypothetically, they're going to read that and that's going to speak to them because they recognize those symptoms. So we haven't used the word eczema. We've given a set of symptoms that people recognize and relate to. Let's say, for example, if you are dealing with people who are struggling with subfertility and are trying to get pregnant, you could use a testimonial, for example, that says something along the lines of, we tried and we tried, and each month I just got sadder and more down. I just felt that I was the only person and going through this. I felt so alone and I just so desperately wanted a baby. I so desperately wanted to get pregnant. So we're not talking about subfertility. We're not talking about infertility, which are the named conditions. We're talking about a person's personal experience. And if you've got a woman out there who's looking for that help, she will see that. And boy, oh boy, are you speaking to her experience. Okay, so Does that make sense, everybody? Could you possibly, you know, please use the chat box. Please let me know if this is all making sense, because if it isn't, I need to keep elaborating and explaining how all of this works. But if it's good, let me know as well, okay? So how do we get testimonials? Well, the way that I have always found easiest to get testimonials, and many of you practitioners will, or who have many testimonials will also bear this out, is that at the moment of maximum happiness, which is essentially the person's come to see you, they've come to see you several times perhaps, and they're doing really well because, you know, they're your ideal client, you love working with them, everything you're doing with them is working. At that point, we say in marketing, the moment of maximum happiness, that's the time that you actually get a piece of paper. It must be a piece of paper. You give it to the person and say, your opinion absolutely means the world to me. I love working with you. I'm so glad that we're doing so well and this is working so well for you. Would you mind sharing your experience? It would mean the world to me. It truly helps me grow my practice. Be totally open and honest about it. It truly helps me grow my practice so that I can help more people who are in the same situation as you. And you ask them to actually write down their experience. Now, you can explain to them that, you know, you're not allowed to use words like eczema or subfertility or whatever it is that is going on with this particular person. But if you know, you can guide them, you can legitimately guide them, explain why, because of, you know, Advertising Standards Authority, because of EU law, because of all of these things. But it's far better for them to say, I saw Mary blogs and I was really having problems sleeping. Not using the word insomnia. I was really struggling with sleep. It was just driving me batty. I couldn't function the next day if I'd had a restless night. And since I saw Mary, I'm sleeping like a baby. I just feel so rested and so on. So get them, explain to them how this artful vagueness works. The idea is that they are speaking in terms of emotion. I feel so much better. My goodness, you know, my life is completely changed now. Oh my word, I can't believe that we're now pregnant and my partner and I are so excited. We've just had our 3-month scan. You know, so these are all the types of words that you can use. Again, it's artfully vague, but it speaks the emotional language of the client, and it therefore relates to anybody out there who is the kind of person that you want to target with your messaging. So I hope that makes sense. So what is this issue about the moment of maximum happiness? Well, the point is that the person is, you know, they're saying to you how well they're feeling. They're really buoyed up by the experience of working with you. And so one of the people that I respect most in the field of social psychology is Professor Robert Cialdini. Now, he is the lead thinker in the sort of the reciprocity research. So that is the study of why we do things for other people. What is reciprocity? Well, reciprocity is reciprocal action. We do something for somebody, they do something back for us. Reciprocity is a really wonderful transaction that is actually instrumental in us surviving as the human race and actually evolving as the human race, because humans came together as tribes, and it's transactional, the way that we operate in tribes, and actually, of course, nowadays the way we operate in society is that somebody does something for somebody and somebody does something back for them in turn. And it consolidates relationships, it consolidates the way that we work together. It consolidates the way that we can trade. I mean, trading is a transaction. Trading and giving somebody a wonderful treatment session and they then give you some money is it's a reciprocal transaction. So the psychology of reciprocity, it plays beautifully with this idea of, at the moment of maximum happiness, when the person is really explaining to you just how well they're doing, that's when you get your piece of paper out and you say, if you wouldn't mind. And you can do it with a really, really light touch. You don't have to be strident about this. just with a really light touch, explain to them that you're so happy for them and that it would mean the absolute world to you if they wouldn't mind filling out a testimonial. And also, if you can, get them to promise to leave you a Facebook review. That's extremely important. Now, the problem with Facebook reviews is that the person goes off and they're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and full of good intentions, but then of course, you know, they've then got to locate where they left the car, they've got to go and get the kids from school, they've got to get the kids something to eat. After all that's gone, with the best will in the world, they've probably forgotten that they promised to leave you a Facebook review. You can message them, that's fine. You know, if they did say, yes, of course, I'll do that for you. If they haven't done it, a couple of days later, just say, oh, by the way, it really would mean the world to me if you could leave me a Facebook review. Very, very important to get Facebook reviews. If you were in my group yesterday in Janie Goddard Masterclasses, I touched on Facebook reviews because on Facebook, you're quite vulnerable in a way, because if you've got some nasty troll out there who decides to take it upon themselves and say that you're the biggest charlatan on the planet because they just hate complementary medicine, it's nothing about you, never take it personally. It's never about you. It's about them and their damaged psyche. But if you've got somebody, it's happened to a few people in the CMA, it's happened to me countless times. It's happened to, you know, if you're busy, if you're out there, if you're putting your head above the parapet, you will attract negative attention. So if you ever do get a negative review, never let it bother you. It means actually that you've been noticed and you are doing a bloody good job. Okay, so never ever get distressed by these things, but just make sure that the balance of reviews and the majority of the reviews are really, really positive. And so, as I say, they serve the same sort of purpose as testimonials, because you've got a real person who is experiencing the same sorts of health issues and health concerns and worries as your ideal client. So when your ideal client comes across your Facebook page and or your website, that you become very relatable. The other thing with negative reviews is also, you know what it's like, I think we're all probably very similar. You know, if I'm buying something online, for example, I do like to look at reviews, and you know, if there's a negative review, but you know, you've got one negative review and you've got 100 positive reviews, you just look at the negative review and you think, oh, you poor thing, you know, you're obviously having a bad day or just a bit sad and a bit damaged, and let's send you some love. You know, because these are, you know, trolls and cyber bullies are very, very damaged people. So, you know, so don't, please, if you ever get negative attention, use it as a badge of honor. I've got vile things written about me on the internet, and it used to really worry me, because this all happened before, you know, words like cyberbullying and trolls. So truthfully, please, just get on, just, you know, sort of chuck it over your shoulder and go, oh, well, that's the only way to respond is, oh, well. You know, what if somebody continues to write, you know, in threads, for example, if you've got discussion threads on your Facebook page. I know we're digressing slightly, but this is such an important issue. You're well within your right to delete the person. You're well within your right to block them. It's your page. You don't have to put up with that sort of nonsense. But sometimes it can actually play well, because very often, if you've got a lot of discussion threads going on, you'll find that somebody will write something really negative, and then you'll find that all your fans will weigh in and actually say, I know this person, or I see this person as my practitioner. I know this is a really good person. And actually that can play really well into your court. So again, these act as social proof that you're a good person doing a wonderful job and really helping people out there. So I hope that that actually is useful information. I know it's a little digression, but you know, it's such an important issue. So let me just check my notes, if you don't mind. Right, okay. Let me have a wee look. Right, okay, before I come on to that next part, if you don't mind, I'm going to look at the questions right now. So let's have a little look. Right, okay, so yes, it's making sense, yes, thank you. Are the words insomnia and anxiety considered named? Yes, they are named conditions. So no, you can't use words like insomnia. As I just said, instead of saying insomnia, you could talk about tossing and turning all night, okay? Instead of the word anxiety, which is a named medical condition, you can, oh, by the way, actually, so I'll come on to that in a second. Whilst it's on my mind, named conditions. I did actually ask, and I have asked them several times, the Advertising Standards Authority for a list of named conditions. They haven't got one. But if you named a condition, they could say that's a named condition. It's ridiculous. But the way that I do it is that I do research. I do a lot of research. So for example, if I'm doing research and I'm on PubMed, pubmed.com, by the way, if you want to go and check it out, if you want to do research in your field and look at what the research status is in your field, then go over to PubMed, put in your discipline that you practice, and then put in, let's say, anxiety. If something comes up and you've got words in titles of research papers using the word anxiety, which you will see, it then becomes essentially a medical condition. So what sort of wording would you use instead of anxiety, for example? You could use things like fears, worries, tossing and turning, or, you know, churning, you know, churning thoughts that make you feel uncomfortable. So one of the best tips, this is a golden tip, one of my best tips is get yourself a thesaurus, or just go online and go to thesaurus.com or thesaurus.com, depending on how you pronounce it, and put in the word anxiety and see what else comes up. Or go to dictionary.com, put in the word anxiety and look at all of the synonyms and the other ways of describing this particular word. So if you are targeting a particular condition, look at other ways of saying that, okay? So that's really helpful for you. So, right, okay. Let's have a look. What about the word pain? You know, pain is so vague. It's not actually a named condition. So you can use the word pain, but, you know, I would actually use the word discomfort. Or I would, for example, if I was treating people with, let's say, rheumatoid arthritis, I can speak to that because obviously I can describe rheumatoid arthritis pain very well, having been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt and the mouse mat. So the pain of rheumatoid arthritis, let's say I wanted to craft messaging around that to appeal to a rheumatoid arthritis demographic, people with RA. I would use words like, you know what it's like first thing in the morning. You try to get out of bed, but you know that the first time you move, you're just going to be in excruciating agony. You know that you're actually frightened of moving because you know that first hour of trying to move around is just soul destroying. It sucks your energy and so on. Now, that is interesting messaging because everybody with RA knows that one of the guiding diagnostic symptoms is morning stiffness that lasts for about an hour. So you see what I've done there? I've described the symptoms. I've described what happens for people with RA first thing in the morning. You wake up and you just think, oh my God, it's another day. How the hell am I going to get myself moving? I'm in excruciating pain and I'm going to be in excruciating agony for an hour. It's grim, to say the least. So if you can speak to that person's experience, you don't even have to use named conditions. Does this make sense? Please let me know. Okay, Caroline has said, yes, you are concise, Janie, with artful vagueness. Thanks. Okay. Right, Bruna says, oh, great question, Bruna. Is it ethical to ask for the contact details of friends or family members to contact to introduce myself and offer my help? No, I wouldn't ask for those contact details. That's a grey area. Personally, I wouldn't. I mean, if you felt that you were okay, there's no law against it. Personally, I feel it's just a bit grey. I would actually personally, I would get postcards made up. Now, golden tip number 2, postcards. You can get postcards made up that you can get literally thousands for just a few pounds. I'm talking sort of £20, £30. You can get great double-sided, really nice postcards made up that have your contact details on them, information about the sorts of things, conditions that you work with, again, and maybe some testimonials on the back. Now, here's an interesting tip, because these are postcards and they are unlikely to fall into the hands of the government or the Advertising Standards Authority or anybody like that, you probably could actually get away with more named conditions there. If you feel you can get away without naming them and speaking more to the emotions of the person, of your target audience, that's actually stronger advertising anyway. You know, if you say Mary was struggling, Mary had been struggling for years to conceive, and she was just going through this horrific situation every single month, month in, month out, the horrific disappointment and just feeling like a complete failure and so on. We worked together, and then 3 months later, you know, she conceived, and now she's looking forward to her 3 months, you know, scan. You know, those are that is far more powerful, speaking and addressing the emotional side of things. Sports injuries. John had an injury on the pitch. John experienced the worst sliding tackle imaginable. His legs were, you know, his legs flew out from underneath him, and he hit the ground hard. He really thought he was never ever going to play again. We did acupuncture, and we did several sessions. John has just phoned me the other day to say that he's back to playing, and he's in better shape than he was before. You see what I mean? So you're telling stories, you're talking about the person's experience. This is the art of really effective messaging. Okay, so again, you don't have to use name conditions. You talk about what's actually going on for the person. Right, okay, is it ethical to, no, so don't ask for the contact details. I would make up little postcards, as I say, so inexpensive, crazy not to do this, and that give them to the person, and they can give them to their friends and loved ones, or people they know are suffering from the same sorts of conditions. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if your person has got a particular scenario going on for them, they probably know 10, 20, 30 other people who have the same sort of thing going on, because we tend to gravitate towards those sets of groups, don't we? So that's that. Now, Evelyn says, what about wording in Facebook ads? Now, Facebook ads are really strange. This is a completely separate tutorial, so I'm not going to go into that right now, save to say that in Facebook ads, you can't talk about you. You can't use words like you. There are certain things that Facebook will and will not accept. It's incredibly subtle. I personally think that it's worth doing if you want to do Facebook ads, there are lots and lots of great experts out there. Facebook advertising is an art and a science. I can't talk to you about this in one tutorial that isn't even focused on Facebook ads. It's an entire course that you need to take. So what I would do if I were you is, if you're looking at Facebook advertising, so that you don't throw money down a great big black hole, never to be seen again, I would actually hire somebody to do your Facebook ads for you. You can hire people on Fiverr, Upwork, peopleperhour.com, and so on. I would get established experts who are able to show you that they have created a return, an ROI, return on investment, for other people similar to you. Okay, I would be very, very, very careful about who you hire, but you can get good people. And just be prepared to pay them a really decent amount of money to begin with. But once the ball starts rolling, if your Facebook ads are working correctly, it's like a money-making machine, because you'll put £10 in, you'll get £20 back. And you've got to make sure that the person you're working with is able to maintain and observe and report your metrics back to you, so that you and they can tweak your adverts, so you eventually end up with ridiculously effective adverts on Facebook. So as I say, I'm not going to address that any more than that right now, but I hope that's a reasonably little bit of help there for you. Right, okay. Oh, Carol Ann says, love PubMed. It's great, isn't it? I know, I absolutely live and breathe PubMed. Stephen, hi Stephen. We've been chatting, haven't we, on Facebook. Stephen is a certified CBT counsellor. Can I use anxiety, depression, stress? No, you can't in your adverts, because because although you are certified, everybody else here is certified, Stephen. So, you know, you can't use words like that in advertising. Remember also that your Facebook page is deemed to be advertising. So no, you can't use named conditions. None of us can use named conditions. End of story. Okay. I'm going to say it once. I know I'm never going to stop saying this because people keep saying, oh, but what about? Oh, but what about? No, if it's a named condition, if it's a medical condition, no, you can't use it. You've got to analogize. Analogy, analogy, analogy. Please, that's what you've got to do. Okay, right, okay. Oh, Pippa says, oh, this is great, Pippa, thank you. The word anxiety dates back to at least the 1520s. So how can it only be a named condition? Is it a question of using a small a rather than a capitalized A? No, it's not. It's a medical condition. If doctors can prescribe a medicine for it, it's a medical condition. That's it. I don't care if it's been around in common parlance since 1520. The point is, if it can be prescribed for, it's a medical condition. Here's an argument I recently had with the Advertising Standards Authority. I wanted to find out whether they believed that menopause was a medical condition. So you see, you know why I asked the question, just because I wanted to annoy them, really. But no, I was asking because it was quite a relevant thing. As we know, menopause is not a medical condition. It's a life stage. That was my argument to them. But they said, no, if it's possible to prescribe a medicine for a condition, menopause, then it's a named condition. And I said, no, it's a life stage. It's not a condition. It's not a medical condition. And you shouldn't medicalize menopause. I mean, I think it's horrendous. I think disgraceful to medicalize menopause. But, you know, as I say, if you can prescribe a medicine for it, it's a medical condition. So you and I can argue the toss until we're blue in the face. It's not me saying these things. It's not me being big, mean Janie. It's me just trying to guide you and keep you on the side of the angels and keep you safe. That's what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so please don't blame me because it's not my fault. Okay, so right, okay. Oh, and Bruno says, thank you. I heard this method during a marketing session. Yeah, absolutely. Steve says, cool, better get on to the editor then. Yes, Steve, yes, you better had. Okay, just keep yourself safe, everybody. As I say, you know, I couldn't care less about the Advertising Standards Authority. I mean, they're a private company. They can just, well, you know, they can, you know, do one basically. so unladylike, but really, as far as I'm concerned, they can. They're no friends of mine. But legally, this is where I want you to stay safe. Legally, I want you to be absolutely sure that you're not breaking any actual laws, because the problem is if you're breaking laws, they could potentially prosecute you. So that's my worry, and that's why we're doing this session. Okay, so I'm hoping that this is all making sense and helpful. Right, okay, Carol Ann says, we can use the phrase integrated health, which is a very powerful tool that opens up how we holistically support all these medical conditions that we have to describe with artful vagueness. I would argue with you, actually. You could use that phrase, integrated health. We, in this group, right now, all know exactly what that means. Your client hasn't got a flipping clue what integrated health means. They can probably have a stab at it, but you're not speaking their language. You're not appealing to emotion. I'm going to come back to my thing that I always talk about, which is what's in it for me. First rule of marketing, what's in it for me? Your client doesn't give a monkey's what you do. They don't care if you do integrated health. They don't care if you do homeopathy. They don't care if you do aromatherapy. They don't care if you do acupuncture. They don't care if you do CBT. They don't care if you do nutrition. All they care about is, I'm ill, I need to be fixed. That's all they care about. Honestly, I know it's devastating because you spent years getting your qualifications, years and a ton of money. And you're all very proud, as I am, of what I do as a practitioner. Very, very proud, and rightfully so. But ultimately, the messaging to enable your client, your potential client, to make a buying decision is, have you been able to tell them that you understand what is going on for them, you understand and relate to their condition, their symptoms, their woes, their pain, and that you are able to help them. You are the person who has the solution for that, and that you are able, you are the person, you are the go-to expert for this set of circumstances. That's all you have to do. That's how marketing works. So the point is that if I was to put up a website and say, I'm a homeopath, I would guarantee you that there are very few people out there who go, if they don't know about homeopathy, if they haven't got a friend who's a homeopath, and even if they've got a friend who's a homeopath, they still don't really understand what it is. It's just a fancy word. That's, as you know, the public doesn't know what homeopathy is. The public doesn't really know what acupuncture, the power of acupuncture. They just know it's you stick needles in people, and that might actually frighten them because they might be frightened of needles. What they need to know is, what's in it for me? I've got a problem. I've got a health issue. I need to find somebody who can help me. That's all they want to know. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but nobody needs to know what it is you do. You've got to obviously on your site talk about all your qualifications, because you know these are things that establish you as an expert. It's a little bit like on your website. If you go to my website, which is now up again, hallelujah. I don't know if you know, I got massively hacked. As I was saying earlier about you put your head above the parapet, horrid things will happen. So some nasty person decided to hack my website and take it down yesterday, completely destroy it. Thank goodness I've got brilliant web guys. They've managed to piece it all back together again, and it's now back up again, thank goodness. But if you go to my personal website, janiegoddard.com or .org, you'll see that I've got the intro, the welcome, and then I've got all the logos there of all of the media that I've been in. So I've got BBC, British Medical Journal, ITV, Channel 5, the Daily Mail, the Times, the Sunday Times, Vogue, Marie Claire, Natural Health Magazine. So I've got all the logos there. People don't read it, but they just kind of eyeball it and they go, oh, this person's really quite credible because they've been in all these different media. So utilize whatever it is that you've got that can actually, again, tell your story. You've got to keep telling the story, keep telling the story, keep telling the story. So you've got to talk about what you can do for people in their language so they understand what's in it for them, how you're going to help them, how you understand what's going on for them. And then you've got to put all of the convincing information in, like, you know, Mary Smith studied homeopathic medicine for 7 years at the London College of Classical Homeopathy. She also works as a Reiki practitioner and she studied under so-and-so and so-and-so. She also studied nutrition. She's registered with the Complementary Medical Association, the lead body for multidisciplinary complementary medical practitioners. She's got an international Skype practice, blah, 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 positioning you as the expert. And then you've got all of your testimonials, which will also position you as the expert, because people will see that you have worked with and successfully treated, although we don't use the word treat, you've successfully worked with and created resolution for people just like them with the same problems as they have. And if you are targeting your market, because you've done all that work that I taught you in the niche building lesson and the avatar lesson and the demographics lesson and the marketing lesson and the advertising lessons, all of those videos that are up for you, all free of charge, all there for you on the Complementary Medical Association YouTube page, you'll have this entire marketing strategy so you'll be able to get your messaging out correctly. Right, okay, let's have a wee look. So yeah, Caroline, integrated health, yeah, it's nice. It can be on your website because it's a good search term, but your clients won't really relate to it. It's all about relatability. I hope that helps. Is pregnancy a medical condition? Yes, it is. That's why we talk about expecting. That's why we talk about having babies. That's why we talk about, let me think, other ways. Yeah, I can't actually right now. I can't think of other ways. But you know, words like having babies and expecting and things like that are the terms that your core audience would be relating to. So if you're talking about pregnancy massage, actually pregnancy massage, let me just think about that. Yes, actually, that is an instance where you could use it, because you're not claiming to treat somebody to get them pregnant or help get them pregnant. To help get them pregnant. That would be weird, wouldn't it, if you would, yeah, okay, we won't go there. So no, so you are helping ladies who are already pregnant. That would be okay. That is actually all right, because you're not claiming to create pregnancies, and you're not claiming to do something to somebody to enhance the pregnancy. You are claiming to work, to be able to work with people, to be able to give them a massage even while they are pregnant. So that's actually a different category of usage. It's a, yeah, so you're not making a claim, you're actually talking about what you do. So that's actually different, subtle. So I do understand that I may need to elaborate on that, and I can do that in the notes if that's coming up for people. So if you've got questions on that, make notes under this broadcast when it goes live on YouTube or on the Complementary Medical Association page. It's fine for you to leave them there. Okay, so is this all the same for physiotherapists and osteopaths? Yes, it is. You're not allowed to talk about treating named conditions, no matter who you are. It may be that physios and osteopaths and chiropractors are state registered, so there may be a little leeway where you can possibly talk about back pain. But you see, back pain, for example, again, isn't a named condition, because you don't have a doctor prescribing a drug for back pain. They may prescribe a drug for, let's say, I'm trying to think of what would be a good analogy here. It's really difficult to say, actually. Let's think of a back condition. Okay, a doctor would prescribe a drug for ankylosing spondylitis. Okay. They don't prescribe drugs for back pain. They might prescribe an analgesic for generalized pain, but it's so general that it's not really a specific. So there may be a little leeway for osteos and chiropractors, but by the same token, personally, I would steer clear of it. You know, you can talk about bad backs. Somebody suffering with a really bad back. You could talk about backache, because it's not a condition, it's not a named condition, it's an experience. So these things are very, very subtle, as I keep saying, you know, but again, you know, the person could actually, better messaging, better marketing, more effective marketing is, if you're working with somebody with back pain, what is that back pain stopping them from doing? So you could say something along the lines of, it got to the point where my back was so bad, I couldn't even pick my grandchildren up. Do you see what I mean? So you're talking about a life experience that that person can't actually partake in because their back is hurting them. So those are real experiences that are relatable to other people. You could talk about, I really loved playing football every weekend, and I used to love spending time with my mates afterwards, and sinking a couple of beers and talking about the man of the match. But after I hurt my back, I just couldn't do that, and I really felt I was missing out. Also, I found that I was really getting unfit. That weekly football session really used to contribute to my fitness, strange as that may seem. You know, so talk about all of those things. Talk about the mental experience of the person or the emotional experience of the person. That is actually, that's going to stand you in good stead from a marketing perspective. What I'm giving you today is way more powerful than saying, I'm a homeopath and I treat eczema. So what, you know, do you treat children's eczema? Do you treat adult eczema? You know, it just doesn't explain anything. It doesn't talk to anybody's personal experience. No, you know, people relate to people, you know, like them. So, you know, if you've got that and your personal, you know, the experience, you're describing it, you've got the testimonials, you've got yourself a massively, massively powerful marketing, you know, marketing vehicle there. Okay, so, right, okay, right, let's have a little look. Created resolution. Yeah, Caroline, yes, created resolution again. You might like to say resolved the condition, helped the condition, or you can't use the word cured. So I see where you're going with this. So thank you for saying that. Yes, because we haven't discussed the C word, cured, have we, just yet? Again, you're not allowed to use the word cure or treat. So again, created resolution. That's very much practitioner speak. We in this group, we all know, don't we, exactly what we're talking about. And, you know, resolve the condition. Again, we know, because those are professional terminologies, it's kind of jargon. But, you know, I would use, I saw Carol Ann, and I had such terrible problems with sleeping. I just was tossing and turning all night. I'd look at the alarm clock and the clock just didn't seem to move. Anyway, after I'd seen Carol Ann, I just was sleeping like a baby. I felt that I could get on with my day so much better. I was brighter. My mental function was so much better. Do you see where I'm going? So instead of using words like resolved the condition, created resolution, I'm talking about my personal experience. I feel so much better if you can use those words. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, just before I come on to those last few questions, I want to talk about getting testimonials and the types of testimonials that I want you to get. Righty-ho, yes. Right. La 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 la. Right, okay. Let me find it right. Ah, yeah, okay, great. The most compelling type, and this is research-based, okay? All down to research. Testimonials. The first, most powerful testimonial is where you've got a person's picture, and if you've got before and after pictures, hallelujah, happy days, okay? Because if you can tell a story in pictures, you've got it made. That is fantastic. If you've got somebody who, if you're a nutritionist, you've got somebody who was really, really, really heavy beforehand, and then they've lost a lot of weight and they're looking amazing. A picture tells it is worth 1,000 words, as we know. If you've got somebody who was really, really, really bent over, and then you treated them, they're able to stand up nice and straight. Again, you don't even need any claim words, do you? You've got it, it's there. The evidence is there in front of the people's very own eyes. If you've got somebody, if you've got skin conditions, oh my goodness, you know, then you've got a nice picture of grim, weepy eczema, and then you've got the same picture of the person's eczema all cleared up, or their psoriasis or whatever. Again, please use those pictures. If you are doing things that you can illustrate with graphics, then with pictures, then my goodness, please make a habit of actually taking pictures with the person's permission. Obviously, you don't just stand them against a wall and take pictures of them. That would be mean, and we're not mean. So there we go. So that's the most important thing. If you could then actually, if you can't get before and after pictures, we're going to go on to permissions in a minute. Get a picture of the person, head and shoulder shot of the person, looking all nice and happy with their name and their location. That's the most, research shows, that's the second most powerful form of testimonial, with their words, with their real name. Then if you can't get the picture, just their name and their location. If you can't get the name, just the location is fine. Now, here's the thing about permissions. You've got to get the person's permission to use the testimonial. You must get it in writing, and you must also make sure, absolutely put it in writing also, that they know that should they want you to take that testimonial down at any time, they just ping you a message, it will be removed immediately, okay? So you've got to make sure that they feel safe by giving you this testimonial, and that they know exactly how it will be used. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than saying something nice to somebody and then suddenly finding that your name is up there in black and white and that they're using you as a testimonial. It happens to me all the time. I'm now really careful about what I say. You know, if a couple of times somebody's got a really nice product, and I've gone back to them and I said, oh, I really, thank you so much for your lovely product, and I bought it and I've been using it, it's absolutely brilliant, well done. I've then seen Janie Goddard, president of the Complementary Medical Association, says blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, well, that's a bloody cheek, actually. That's just really, really rude. without asking somebody's permission. You see, because the thing is, I don't endorse products. I can't, as a journalist and also as president of the CMA, it would not be right for me to compromise my journalistic integrity by endorsing products. You know, it just wouldn't, or even my credibility as the president of the CMA, it just doesn't do that. So no. So just make sure that if you are going to use something, you've got to get the person's permission. Please, please, please make sure you do that. Let me have a quick look. Right, okay, yep, that's what I wanted to tell you there. Talked about Robert Cialdini. Let me think about this. Yes, Google Robert Cialdini, get some of his books because they are really, really interesting books. They're fascinating and easy reading, although he's obviously a massive, high-profile academic. He's a brilliant man and his books are just amazing. So I really do recommend that they are mandatory reading. Highly recommended anyway. Right, okay, so let me have, oh yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say was when we reopen post-COVID, tra-la-la, pray that you know that we're open, you know, and our clinics are really properly open soon. One of the things I saw that I thought was absolutely brilliant at my homeopath's clinic was that she had a book of testimonials, and you know, she left it on the table in her practice room, and anyway, it had all these lovely handwritten testimonials in it, and so you could flip through as the, you know, the patient in the waiting room, and you could read all these lovely things that people had said about this lady. My goodness, you went into her with this most really positive expectation of a wonderful outcome. And her actual speciality, in fact, was subfertility. So the other thing that this lady did was that she had babies, pictures of babies all over her practice room, babies that were born to women who'd been told that they would never, ever conceive. So again, you imagine some young lady coming into this practice room in the depths of despair, having been told that that's it, you're never, ever going to fall pregnant. And there she is looking at all these pictures of all these babies who are from women who had been told exactly the same as she had been. Where, you know, you can't get better than that, can you? So not only is this woman a brilliant homeopath, but also you've got a massive placebo effect going on there as well, haven't you? Because, you know, my goodness, there's actual proof that what she does works, you know, so I just say use everything you can because it's all really helpful. Okay, so, oh, lovely Bruna. Thank you, Bruna. She says, I'm in awe of your generosity in giving us so much. I feel really part of a professional organization who intends to thrive, not just a passive subscription. Thank you. Well, thank you, Bruna. Those are really lovely words and they really mean the absolute world to us. I know that sounds probably a bit sort of gushy, but you know what? We work so hard at the Complementary Medical Association. You know, we're always thinking about what else can we do for our members? What else can we do to make things even better for you? What can we do to support your practice? And we're always open to suggestions. And so when we get lovely positive feedback, you know, Roberta and I are just like, we sort of go, yay, you know, Megan's always, you know, Megan's behind the scenes and she does all the design and the social media and so on. And then our web guys see all this and so on. And it means the world to all of us because we really work hard. So thank you for those very kind words. It's, you know, we're truly grateful. Right, okay. Caroline says, I've seen physios advertise tennis elbow as opposed to epicondylitis. Yes, it's a brilliant example. It's a brilliant example. Tennis elbow is not a medical term, as far as I know. But, you know, probably the Advertising Standards Authority, because they're horrid, would probably argue the toss. If let's face it, if they can argue for menopause being a medical condition, they can probably argue for tennis elbow. But legally, I think that's probably actually a very good example. Thank you. This has byn so, Carolyn says, this has been so useful. Thank you. This has been so informative. Really appreciate your guidance. Thank you very much. Appreciate you saying so. Charlotte says, I wish I'd subscribed to the CMA 100 years ago. Such value for money. Thank you so much. No, well, yeah, we're glad we got you now, though. That's, you know, better late than never, as they say. No, we're very proud to have you. Thank you for being with us. Sandra says, can you just put first name and location on testimonials? I assume you mean. So yeah, you can, absolutely. Yes, that's perfectly okay. It does drive response. You know, the market research does show, yes, it drives response. Again, though, any identifiable data, anything you're including that is identifiable, you must actually make sure you've got the person's permission. It's absolutely crucial. Right, is a testimonial okay on an email? Yes, it's fine, absolutely. How is Roberta's surname spelled? I believe you mean Roberta Macmillan. Yeah, M-A-C. Oh, no, you don't mean that. Sorry, Pippa. How is Roberts? Oh, Cialdini. Sorry, right. Sorry, everybody. C-I-A-L-D-I-N-I. It's like Cialdini. Thumbs up. Thanks, Pippa. Sorry, thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Okay. All right. Carol says, what about products we resell that might have something like stress balance in the name? Disclaimers that no, stress balance, you see, stress balance, yeah, you see, stress balance isn't a condition, is it? It's an interesting one. I would argue that that's actually not terribly difficult. That's probably not terribly dangerous. I would argue for that being okay. So stress balance, because we're not talking about stress as a condition, stress balance isn't a medical condition. So I think you'd probably be okay with it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And you're selling products on. And actually, if those products, you're selling them on, chances are that they've already gone through the Health Food Manufacturers Association. Now, I'm on the advisory board of the Health Food Manufacturers Association. So I tend to get a lot of looks at what you can and can't put on products as well. So chances are, if it's products, they've probably already gone through that process, so you're probably absolutely fine with that. Right, okay. You're welcome, Jill. Caroline says, re-menopause, check out Balance app. Oh, so informative. And thank you, Janie. Super Zoom presentation. Oh, you're very, very welcome. My darlings, I've got to run to another meeting. So I'm going to love you and leave you today. I just want to say thank you so much for being with us. As always, your questions really make things so much easier because you spark ideas for me and you'll probably prompt me as well with things that I should have mentioned and perhaps didn't think to mention. So this is why I love this live, because it enables us to go back and forward. So thank you so much for that. Lots of love, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, Roberta. I don't know if Roberta can be heard because she's got some really iffy connections, but Roberta, thank you so much. Oh, here we go, she's here.
Yeah, I'm okay, I'm back. Yes, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Roberta. Lots of love, everybody. All the very best. Take care. See you soon. I'm sorry I've got to dash.